So what is up guys, it's Zero here, and today I have for you the first deck profile for set 17? Yeah, set 17. And the first thing, what else would I start off with other than Overlord? So, this was, honestly, looking at, when we first looked at the reveals, it looked very underwhelming, and Rebirth is pretty underwhelming, but the Dio Break Ride is very good, so I'll explain everything as we actually go on with the deck. So without further ado, here's the list. This is the list I've been playing, this list I've been climbing off ladder with. So I'll start and I'll just go over the cards like I usually do. Alright, so first off, it's Conroe. You either love him or you hate him. If you play the clan, you love him. If you don't play the clan, you hate him. But his skill, you know what he does, is Forerunner and CB1, retire him, search your deck for a grade 1 or lower. There's no grade 1 lower, so you search for a grade 1. 90% of the time you search a PG with this. A guaranteed PG is always nice, and it's never bad to have, so yeah. You have no other good starters in Kagero, and even if you did, it would have to be at least as good as Conroe, and there is nothing in Kagero that is even close to as good as Conroe, so yeah. You play him 100%. There's nothing else that I would even consider right now. Next, I'll get to the PGs. I'm playing Rhino Cross, the new PG, or the Sentinel 2, whatever you want to call it. I don't think, since this deck does want to break ride, I think this is the better PG for the deck, but if you wanted to play Bari, there's nothing wrong with that, so yeah. I think it does come down to preference, but since this deck is somewhat break ride aligned, I do think Rhino Cross is the better choice, so yeah, this is why I play this. And then go over the old card first, so for Gojo. You don't know what he does. Vanguard Rear, rest himself to ditch a card to draw a card, so he's a filter. I'm still not a fan of filters, but this card has an extra use now, other than just filtering, is that he lets you get Overlords into your drop zone, which you will need to pay for Burnout's cost. So this card can enable like turn 1, that's not turn 2 Burnouts, which is really good. So yeah, that is why I play 4 of this card. He can help you trade trash in your hand for hopefully something better, and he enables burnouts earlier. Obviously, filtering is still 50-50. If you like draw into a heal and you need to heal, well, it sucks to suck, you filtered. So yeah, it is what it is. It can either win you a game or it can lose you a game. But the main reason I play is because it helps get your burnouts live earlier. So yeah. And then another card that helps with that is the Eternal Bringer Griffin, I think is this thing's name. I don't remember the name exactly. It's the Griffin. His skill is a rear guard circle only, which actually really sucks. I wish this thing was Vanguard Rear, but on play to rear, you can discard any grade 3 to search your deck for any Dragonic Overlord. So then add it to hand. I say any Dragonic Overlord because there's 2 of them, but this card does not search the End or Rebirth. It only searches cards that are specifically named Dragonic Overlord, meaning it searches the Break Ride and it searches the Set 1 Overlord, the CB3 Clear Front Row Overlord. So I play 4 of it because I do super value the Break Ride, and having that one of Clear Front Row Overlord, this card can help you search it late game if it's still in your deck if you didn't check it or anything. So this thing has like 2 uses: search Break Ride early, and you can search a front row clear late. And also, since you're dropping grade 3s, this card also enables burnout early. So yeah, that's why I choose to play 4 of this. There was something else I want to say. I guess if I don't remember, it's not important. And then the one of I'm playing is quite a weird choice. I haven't played this in any other list before, but is the Dragonic Gaius. His skill is when he boosts anything, so it can be rear or Vanguard. You can CB2 to give the thing it's boosting +1 crit, but the power that he's boosting with becomes 0. So, for example, if you're boosting like an 11k Vanguard, and you boost with this. 11 plus 6 is 17, right? So if you use a skill, you lose out on the 6k from Gaius, putting it so you only swing for 11, but you get an extra crit on it. So this card is just... I didn't really like anything else that deck has. I played this as a one of like a joke, and then I ended up really liking it. So this one's not gonna be anything, but the reason I like this card is because you can push for 3 damage on a strike in turn. It gives the deck access to crit, because otherwise it just has no way to crit other than striking. It gives you a way to use counterblocks if you just don't need to retire and you want to use the counterblocks for something, for whatever reason. It can, in cases where you're out of triggers in your deck and you can't scale over a 6 steal, this card basically scales over 6 because you 2 crit them. Obviously, assuming you can like call out the amount of PGs they have in their hand, and like you don't swing like a 16 into it first, and then the 16, and then can't use this. I'm not sure, can't scale at all. So yeah. Yeah, this card has it just has like cool niches. This card has definitely won me a lot of games, but being 6K really sucks. So yeah, if this thing was 7K, I'd probably play more, but has its uses. I suggest that you at least give it a try, but it's definitely not a card you have to play or anything. I just like it as a cool one attack. That's it for the grade 1s. For grade 2s, start off with the neutral rare, grade 2, the Dragonic Burnout. So this card got heavily nerfed from the TCG. In the TCG, this card was a Soul Blast 1, put an Overlord from your deck to the bottom of your deck. So, in the context of 0, it is a free retire basically, because Cardfight does not use your soul for anything. So it'll basically be like Soul Blast 1, put a trigger back into your deck, and then retire something. That sounds really busted because it would be, but in 0, this card got changed to on play you Counter Blast 1 instead. So instead of Soul Blast, you Counter Blast. And then you banish an Overlord from your drop zone, so you don't get to recycle the trigger. You just remove it from the game, like the power gainers, like the one like the Alwyn in Jewel Knights, and like the I know Ganslot has one. Yeah, but yeah, like you just remove it from the game. I guess Dayusha is a better comparison. Yeah, like you know how Dayusha isn't from your hand. He removes himself from the grave to add one of the pieces, one of the Robo pieces. Yeah, same thing. It's like he removes an Overlord from your drop, so it's yeeted from the game. To retire anything. It's just nice. It's you have like 8 ways to make it live by turn 2. I'm assuming you have a grade 3 in your hand to discard. Obviously, you could just drive check like a trigger, and it will go to drop 2. This card's just nice. This card is, I think, like if you have enough Overlord names in a Nobel list, you would play this over Critic just because this card is more live more often. The only thing that sucks with this card is rear only. So if you ride it, you can't use the skill. That is, I think, the worst thing about this card. But I still think it's a very, very good card, and a really good card for the deck because it's just a very cheap way to retire. Because in a lot of your games, after you do your Breaker turn, you probably spent like 3-ish counter blasts on that turn, and you're left with like 2 open on the next turn. If you live, you can't use Overlord, or you can't use the base Dio, the CB3 for clear front row. So having 2 burnouts is just 2 retires, so it's a very good way to follow up after your break turn because it's really cheap retires. So yeah, that's what you really for, but I would not play any less. Next off is the Striken. He is the quote-unquote original break ride, but skill is a Vanguard Circle Restraint, so he can't attack if he's on Vanguard Circle if you ride him. And then whenever you ride something on him, he gives that unit 5k and a crit. So yeah, it like quote unquote like delays the damage that he would have dealt turn after. That's kind of how you look at it, but gives your Vanguard the 5k and a crit. You all know the play that never actually works, Strike and Dote, because you always heal out of it even have 2 damage, but that is a play you can do. I'm playing the 1 Gaius. Sometimes you just get to 3 crit someone for lethal, or check for PG from 3. So like that's also a play. But the reason, because this card it's just good at tempoing, because you deny, because this card, riding this card, you can deny them the counter blast for a turn, as well as being on 10k base, so you're harder to hit, and then you just do the damage in the next turn, because drive checks in this game aren't like nearly as important as they are in TCG, because you don't actually plus off with them unless you hit a draw trigger. So yeah, the card is just really good, and then on rear it's a 10k vanilla, and which is 10ks are big, which is nice. And then the other 4th grade 2 is the Bellicosity Dragon, the Unflipper, Vanguard rear, on hit, unflip a card. Yeah, this is an Unflipper. This deck loves using its Counter Blast. This card lets you use more Counter Blast, so yeah, good card, very good card. Very good card, yeah. And the one of is a Berserk Dragon. Vanguard rear, on play, CB2 retire, grade 2 or lower. It's Berserk Dragon. It's CB2 retire, it's an okay card. Not much else to say. You play because you play this over like a critic because you're not playing Novell in this deck, so you want something in that spot. I guess replacements would be, you could try out the 12k attacker, the Burning Horn, in the grade 2 slot over like the Berserk. Same with grade 1, if you don't like your guys at the end, the next best thing to play is the Violence Horn, the 10k attacker for the Overlords, if you have Overlord Vanguards, yeah. The solo attacker is always nice because this deck does lack in a solo attacker, but your other grade 2 slots are just so important that you don't have space for the Burning Horn, so yeah, that's why I don't play them. This deck would definitely appreciate 12k attackers. If Striken didn't exist, you'd definitely play the 12k over the Striken, but Striken exists, so you're forced to, you kind of want to play it, so yeah. Moving on to the grade 3s. Where do I want to start? I'll go with the old cards first. I guess we'll do the one of first. The one of this one of is the Dragonic Overlord. Because he shares name with the Break Ride, you can only play a max of 4 total. So the split I personally chose was 3 Break Rides, 1 of this. I'd love to play more of this because this card is still a win, like just a CB3 win the game bind sometimes. But the biggest problem with playing more of this is that you're playing less of the Break Ride and you want to get the Break Ride. Like you don't want a game where you open this Overlord and you don't have the other Overlord and you don't have a searcher either and you're like, oh, I guess I'm riding this instead. If you're playing more than one. Even with one, I've had that happen before where I had to like discard this to grab the Break Ride. So yeah. I do think in the concept of this list, the Break Ride is more important. That's why I play 3 of the Break Ride and only 1 of this. But yeah, this card's still really good. You can definitely play around with ratios if you think 2 is enough. I think 2. If you can get away with getting the Break Ride every single game, like 2-2 is perfectly fine. But I personally value the consistency of opening the Break Ride, so I play 3 and 1 instead. And then everyone's favorite Dote, the Dragonic Overlord, the end. So his skill is I guess the first skill is Cross Ride. Cross Ride with Dragonic Overlord, the original one. So actually matters now because the Break Ride is the same name. So if you Break Ride this or Rebirth on that Overlord, you get Cross Ride base, which is really nice. But yeah, his skill is on hit, CB2, Persona Blast, draw 2, restand. This card is good. This card is just good. Very simple, but it's a very good skill because it's a +1, and you get an extra attack off of it, which is more chances to drive check triggers, which is more chances to heal and draw extra cards. So yeah, good card. Not much else to say. It's a good card. Although it does suck if you like don't have the Persona Blast, because then this thing's just a vanilla. But what can you do? You play because the Overlord name and because it's a good card. And when you do it, when you do get to do Persona Blast, it's a very solid, pretty good, relatively strong play. And then the actual one-up slot is the Dauntless Drive. I'd love for this to be like another of the CB3 Overlord, but like I said before, you can't. But you play this because you basically have nothing better. I even tried fucking Blazing Flare, but yeah, this is probably still the best one of the deck can play. I don't know what he does. He's the original Break Ride. Limit Break 4, Break Ride. You give your Vanguard 10k and the skill once per turn. At the end of the battle that it attacks, CB1, ditch 2, restand, draw 2, and then if you have more rears on your opponent, plus 3k during your turn. Yeah, it's you like never want to actually ride it, but if you ride it, you don't feel too bad about it. It also isn't an Overlord name, so you can't banish it with Burnout. And if you happen to have only this as your grade 3, and you're already on the Break Ride Overlord, you can't. The Break Ride Overlord can't give skill to this card because this card's on Overlord. It sucks that you actually cannot play a 13th Overlord because there just isn't one in the game right now. So yeah, you play this because you actually have nothing better to play. And then finally to new cards, I'll do the Break Ride first. So this is the Break Ride Overlord. So again, his name is also Dragonic Overlord. But his skill is a Break Ride when an Overlord unit rides on him. So yeah, like I said before, this card can only give the Break Ride skill to another Overlord. If you ride something else on top of this card, he gives the 10k, but he does not give the skill to that unit. But that skill is once per turn. When it gives that unit the skill, Vanguard Circle, on hit to rear, you CB1, you discard 1 to restand and draw 2. So I think the best way to look at this skill is basically a dope Persona Blast, but the discard can be anything, but it's just locking behind Break Ride. So yeah, the skill is actually very strong. Yes, you don't get as many attacks to face because Dauntless is still the better card if you're looking to like just straight up kill them. Because if the opponent's at 5 and you can clear both front row, this card is, if you use this as your Break Ride, you can still only go maximum 3 attacks to face, while Dauntless can get you 4 because Dauntless isn't locked behind having to hit a rear. This card has to hit a rear for your Vanguard to restand. It sucks, but the way this deck plays is like a little different from like what you're used to, because the way this deck plays is a lot of times you like eat shit and then Break Ride and then just heal like twice, and like you're back in the game and you're like in a winning position with like a 10 card hand because this card is still a +1. This card's a +1, and if you use Dote, it's a +1. You'll probably hit at least 1 draw in between that. So yeah, just this card is just very good because it's like a straight up plus, and it gets an extra attack, and it gives your other 2 Overlords, your ideal ride targets, cross ride. So yeah, I play 3 of it because I still want 1 copy of the original Overlord. So yeah. And finally, the Rebirth. This is the old art. This is the ranked word art. honestly, that I've never seriously used that first skill, the Limit Break 4 skill, but I'll go over it anyway. So, Limit Break 4, lock until you have 5 cards locked. To give this card 10k and the skill. At the end of once per turn, at the end of the battle that it attacked, you may pay cost, which is discard 1 to restand itself and draw 2 cards. Alright, so the reason the skill is actually terrible is because you actually lose out on the amount of attacks you can do. If you just go rear, Vanguard, that's 3 attacks, alright? This card locks 5, so you can't swing with your rears. You go swing once, swing twice. Alright, you lost an attack. Yes, this card is actually just a free plus because you ditch 1 to draw 2, and you don't actually lose the rears you locked. But it is straight up less attacks. And the cost is actually like basically impossible to pay for Kagero, because lock 5 means you have to have a full board, and when you're playing card, you basically never have a full board because this deck has like terrible card economy. In the sense that you don't actually plus off of anything other than like dote and draw triggers. I guess now the break card overlord in this, but you kind of have to have the cards to begin with to use this card's limit breaks, yeah. Although I will say, the one specific scenario where this card is good is if you can clear their front row beforehand with, say, like 2 burnouts, and you know they are out of PGs, and the only thing that can save them is like a 6 heal. This card lets you scale over a 6 heal. Because you don't play Novell in this, you can't just shut those off straight up. But yeah, like if you know your opponent's out of PGs and the only thing that saves them is 6 heal, and you can clear their front row, you can go Vanguard swing, hit. Oh, they 6 heal, cool. You're like 21 minimum, and then you swing and hit again for game. Yeah, that's the only situation I've ever even like thought of using this. But even then, there are probably other ways to do it. So yeah, that first skill is basically a meme. You basically never use it. But I guess another situation you would think about using it is if you're just looking to survive that turn. You're looking just to survive the turn. This card, it still helps you dig for PGs and check for more heals and stuff, but by that point you're probably out of heals and you're just digging for PGs. So yeah. Oh yeah, right. I forgot this card's more skills. Right, I forgot about that. The actual relevant skill is the second skill that they gave him in this game. When this card hits a rear, you can counterblast 2 and discard a Overlord to retire any rear. So this card basically comes on hit to rear and turn any Overlord in your hand into a Berserk Dragon, basically. So yeah, this skill I've actually used a lot, because this skill can either help you burn down boosts, like important boosters like Battle Endurance, or just boosters in general, so the opponent can't hit you, because a lot of the time you will be on cross-strike base, and it just helps you turn like extra Overlords into your hand into something actually useful, and it gives you a way to like check for extra PGs and stuff like that. So this card does wipe out the front. If this card swings from the rear, you can CV2 and kill the other rear, and that is getting rid of it. That can get rid of it and stuff like that. So yeah, this skill is actually useful, and I've actually used this skill quite a bit. And the last skill is Crossfire the Draconic Overlord, and then the last line of text is that you can play the Sibling Joker deck, but that's not relevant here. So yeah, this is the list. This is the list that I've been climbing with for top 10 on this season. I think it works relatively well enough. Will I say it's better than the Novell list? Yeah, I mean, I enjoy playing this list more, but I think Novell is still probably the better deck. But this deck is still fun. I don't think it's that far off from being like that, not much worse. But yeah, this is the list. There's one more thing. I've been asked this quite a bit of times, but it's like people ask me like which card is better, Dio, Brave Card, or Dauntless. I think they do different things. I don't think you should be comparing them. Dauntless gives you more attacks to face, but has a steeper cost. While Dio Break Ride, and like because that's on the turn you're using the Dauntless Break Ride, you're probably looking to end the game. On the turn you use the Dio Break Ride, you're probably not ending the game because you're just not getting enough extra attacks to end the game a lot of times, unless you're at like 4 or 5. Yeah, that's just how I look at it. I think they do different things. Dauntless is like you're trying to end the game kind of Break Ride, and Dio Break Ride is I'm just looking to live this turn, check for triggers, check heals, draw PGs to live an extra turn and kill them on the turn after that. So yeah, I think they do different things. I think they're both good for different reasons, but yeah, I'm not gonna say which one's better because they do different things. So yeah, that's it for that profile. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all the good stuff. Saw some games after this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.